What can someone expect to aspire to from a wage bracket in that role?
Well, I say a great perception. It's not a good perception, but the perception of many is that architecture is well paid and that it's a very lucrative job to get into. I think that is quite misleading. It's a big challenge in the industry, and I think even more so now with the living wage, cost of living, etc. Challenges there for students. I think the big generator for someone considering studying architecture or looking at architecture as a career would be considering the route that they want to get into it. I was one very lucky before kind of tuition fees came in, but I still came out with a huge amount of debt. You know, it's a intensive course where you're doing lots of model making and purchasing lots of materials and wanting the newest kind of equipment and things. Now with tuition fees for a course that could be 6 years in length, part 1 and part 2, coming out with like £80,000 worth of debt. I think that really has to be a serious consideration. Where do you live, etc.? Are you still living with parents or family? Are you trying to get away from all of that and living away from home, but then have that added expense? So I think starting from there to then, a job which actually is okay paid, but I would say if you compare it, and I often do when I speak in schools, to a doctor, someone who is practicing medicine after their time in university, which is fairly similar, 5-6 years, and they would be paid a lot more, double, 3 times as much as, a newly qualified architect or a graduate coming into that. So
how much would that architect be looking to kind of get paid in terms of wage bracket when they come out?
Yeah, I mean, there's various different great surveys and salary benchmarking that you can get from the RIBA, so the Royal Institute of British Architects. I think from the recent surveys in 2023, I think they were putting like an average newly graduate, so after the part 2, so not qualified, but in between that part 2 and part 3, around 24,000. And that will vary from London weighting to kind of other regions. And again, that might be slightly higher depending on the size of the firm and things like that. I think a newly qualified architect is around 26,000. Again, that can vary as well from region to region. And I know that, there are a number of businesses across the industry which are sort of challenging the fee levels so that we can obviously address that kind of benchmarking of the salaries. So.
Because that salary is really low, isn't it, compared to maybe you mentioned a GP, but the thing that came to my mind straight away was a bus driver.
Yeah.
I think a bus driver is on 26, 27, maybe 28.
Yeah, you see all the signs on the buses. Yeah.
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 And so study at university for 5 years and I'm on less than a bus driver.
Yeah.
Why is it that someone would want to go into architecture?
Because it's an amazing industry that can be very innovative, loads of opportunities. I think, I was talking to a colleague the other day, there's probably over 150 different types of jobs in the industry. So if you are interested in marketing or if you're interested in kind of more engineering type degree, there are just loads and loads of different ways you can get into it. And I'd say the pay varies quite considerably around that.